glitch. So, so we are discussing that pre-COVID and post-COVID. So I want to understand from you guys, what are your learnings and what are your experiences so far when we see pre-COVID era and post-COVID, especially first wave and the second wave, how workspaces have undergone a transformation with respect to well-being and employee management and workspace management.
So, first and foremost, thank you for having me here. I represent a real estate firm. We are amongst the largest real estate firms in the globe. Now, very pertinent question to where we are today, right? And it's easily definable by a pre-COVID and a post-COVID era. But I'll come back to certain recent developments, and when I say recent, I think it's just about a couple of years, over the last couple of years. To me, and I'll give you a couple of examples, I think there are trends that are now shaping workplaces, and there are trends that are basically saying workplaces need to evolve in a certain way. What are those trends? Employee health and well-being is at the topmost. You have employee experience, for example, which firms are very, very careful about. You have this whole concept of hybrid working, right? And if you look at data points, the data points pre-COVID and post-COVID are very, very different in terms of people trying to work hybrid. You had this whole concept of return to office and the fact that there were many firms who said that the office space is dead. And they've now kind of bounced back looking for better office spaces. The other trend that's really impacting workplace evolution is the focus around sustainability. And while I can say that sustainability is a very, very big word, it's an umbrella word for a lot of activities that happen. You know, in the earlier panel discussions, a lot of panelists alluded to the focus on the MSME sector, etc. And that's true for us as well, in terms of how do we evolve our workplaces to ensure that we are focusing on the MSMEs to make sure that everything remains within the ecosystem and within the, let's say, the India ecosystem from that perspective, right? But I'll kind of, before I pass it on, and I'm sure Utsav and Parul will have their views as well, to me, it's about collaboration, and that's the biggest evolution. And I can give you our own example. We opened our own brand new office about a couple of years ago, and experience is very different for all of us sitting in this room. It's very intangible, right? So how do we tangibilize it? And my answer is very simple. My answer is the office space should be so exciting that it pulls you to the office on a daily basis, right?
Very valid point.
Before I pass it on to...
So I would say, I think, since the question is pertaining to COVID specifically, in my view, we can attribute digital transformation for most companies to COVID, where CIOs and CTOs were struggling at a point of time and COVID made it happen. And thanks to technology now that most companies, hybrid workplace has become an essential norm of any modern workplace globally. And I think most progressive organizations are successfully adopting to this new work arrangement through effective usage of technology to offer support and to support well-being of the employees and also maintain operational efficiency. As an employee, and this is a win-win for both employee and employer. As an employee, I'm sure we all are aware about different benefits that a hybrid work arrangement has to offer. But if I talk as an employer, I think it has certainly expanded my talent pool because hybrid also means identifying certain roles which can be done remotely, which doesn't need to be coming and sitting in the office on a regular basis. And that means now the entire country becomes my canvas, to attract talent, to hire talent. It has also helped us bring back a lot of gender diverse talent to the workforce, which otherwise, due to lack of flexibility, had taken a break, taken a sabbatical, but are now re-entering the workforce. So more options for me to choose from. Geographical barrier is no more a limitation. Second, it is also helping us retain talent in a better way because now I can provide more expanded roles to the team members, to the employees, which earlier, before COVID, was somewhere a limitation because of either cost as a reason, cost of relocation, or geographical immobility, which now, I have examples in my company where employees are sitting in India and doing a regional assignment supporting Asia Pacific or part of global teams. And it is helping us expand their roles and better employee retention. Thirdly, I would say it has improved the productivity significantly. If I compare pre-COVID, before 2020 and now, productivity has gone up significantly. And employees also do not look at a job as a typical 9 to 6 assignment. Reason, the organizations are also focusing more on the output rather than the hours someone is clocking in. So overall, I think the trend has completely shifted towards hybrid and flexi environment. And in fact, not a trend, I would say rather it's a strategic shift, by defining the right policies, effective utilization of technology. I think this is a trend which will continue.
Parul?
Thank you.
First of all, to begin with, I must address that whenever we go through expressways or we see big buildings, the name of the spelling of your company is very interesting. AWFIS, office. I used to figure out what it is, then I later recognized that this is the space we are getting. So what kind of requirements, client requirements, do you have experienced, a big change you have experienced post-COVID?
So certainly there has been a big shift because pre-2020, only 6% of the employee force were working remotely full-time. And moving today, hybrid culture is the norm. So I believe it gives a lot of comfort. Earlier when this trend has started, and I think both the employers as well as the employees, there was a bit of resentment that whether this kind of a culture would continue or not. But I think over a period of time, it enhances the productivity of employees. In terms of real estate, I've worked in two diverse industries, which is banking and real estate. But in real estate, even the employers and real estate heads, there is a whole shift in how they are looking at their offices as. More and more people need flexibility. More and more companies are moving to hub and spoke model, where they want to create offices which is closer to where the employees are centered. I think this is a great comfort, and it brings a great culture in the organizations.
Okay. So there's a little surprise element here. Parul will be joining me in moderation also. So Parul, over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. But good start. I think you've started the whole session as a suspense, I would say. But yeah, great. I think today's topic is more interactive rather than just one-sided. If I talk about workspaces, as the workplace continues to evolve, organizations are reimagining how and where we work to foster productivity, collaboration, and well-being. Transformating workspaces, crafting the future of work, explores the key shifts shaping modern work environments from hybrid model and purpose-driven cultures to the integration of AI and sustainable workplace design. This discussion today will delve into building flexible ecosystems, prioritizing employee well-being, and redefining office spaces to meet the needs of a multi-generational and diverse workforce. Join us as we uncover how businesses are adapting to these dynamic changes and shaping the future of work. Now, to introduce our panelist more closely, I would like to introduce Mr. Utsav Khandelwal, Director and Head HR India at Zimmer Biomet. He is a true game changer in the HR world. Utsav Khandelwal, Director and Head HR India at Zimmer Biomet, with more than 2 decades of experience in business transformation, organizational redesign, and talent strategy, he has successfully led high-impact initiatives that have reshaped workspaces and driven remarkable business outcomes. Welcome to the panel, Utsav. Our second guest, Mr. Raman Bountra, Group Account Director of JLL India, is a Master of Business Transformation. Raman Bountra, Group Account Director, JLL India, with more than 2 decades of leadership experience across sales, strategy, and operations. He has proven knack for nailing businesses, driving turnarounds, and navigating diverse industries across India and Middle East. Welcome to the panel, Raman. Well, this is a power-packed room, I must say, and I'm quite excited and privileged to moderate such a power-packed panel. Did we know that before 2020, about only 6% of employees worked remotely? And fast forward today, and hybrid work is a norm. So my question is quite related what we've asked, how we began this session. my question is to you, Raman. What do you think? Is this a permanent shift, or do you think this is another phase of workplace transformation?
This is a very interesting question because it really depends on which side of the table you're sitting on, right? And to be honest, what kind of industry are you in? But is it a permanent shift? In all possibilities, yes. And let me give you an example. If you look at data today, what's the average return to office? How many people are coming to office on a daily basis? On an average, the India trend is about 3.2 days a week. So very safely to say it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, a bit on Monday or a bit on Friday, really depends where you are. But if you kind of break it and kind of double click the Excel like you say, manufacturing has to be 100%, right? It has to be 5 or 6 days a week, depending on the kind of manufacturing work that you do. Big Indian conglomerates, in all possibilities, about 4.5 to 5 days a week again. And certain multinationals who are either on the brink or have chosen to either work from home or be completely remote or be a mix on hybrid, the trend is close to about 3 days a week. So that gives your answer saying about 3.2 days a week you need to be in the office. Now having said that, if you look at a pre-COVID era, if you had 100 employees, for example, you essentially had 70% in the office. 10% were traveling, 10% were on leave, and 5 to 7%, like you said, was essentially working from home. Has that trend changed? I think the focus to the metrics have changed, right? We never looked at it pre-COVID, but we are looking at it post-COVID. But one thing that's definitely changed is that workplaces are now continuously evolving, and they keep on evolving. I think it's a race between how is my workplace better than somebody else's, for example. I use the example of experience, but in my opinion, the most important aspect that businesses now are looking at is the human touch and therefore a lot of collaboration. So for example, if I reach office at 8:30, I want somebody to have coffee with me, which may not have been the case pre-COVID potentially. But if I'm working from home, how much do I look at my laptop and how much times do I look at my laptop? So again, Parul, just going back, I think it's a mix of what you said. It is going to be permanent, but is it going to keep on changing? The answer is yes. The space that you work in, the co-working or the managed office spaces, they've evolved from being co-working to managed offices in the space of 4 years, possibly. They were treated as a major disruptor, but I think between at least us and between us as real estate partners, there's space for everyone, right? So the pie continues to grow. So yes, I think there's a major shift to it. It is permanent. How it evolves, I think, is a question of where you are based and the kind of industry that you are in. Sorry, long answer to a short question. Yeah.
Thank you. I think how it evolves is still a question, and we are ready there to look after it. What are your thoughts on this, Mr. Utsav?
Well, I would say I think this is certainly a permanent shift, but difficult to say that one size fit all, because every organization is at a different growth stage, evolution journey. A requirement for a new age tech startup or a technology company would be completely different from an established traditional manufacturing setup organization. But overall, if I say, I think certainly the good part is that leaders do not carry the same orthodoxy now, which that was there in before COVID, that to ensure productivity, to ensure the work gets done, you have to be in the office of 5 to 6 days a week. That orthodoxy is no longer there in the minds of leaders. And I think companies are progressing, things are evolving, the demographics have changed completely. And I think flexibility and hybrid will continue for good. It may evolve further because of the technological advancement, but I think it's a permanent shift.
Okay, it's a wait and watch story, I would say. So study shows that companies with strong well-being programs see 23% increase in productivity. But here is a catch. What works for one employee may not work for another. So this question is to you, Mr. Utsav. With such a diverse workforce, how can organizations ensure well-being initiatives truly make an impact? And since you are from the HR fraternity, you have a best answer to it.
So not sure if it's a best answer, but I can certainly talk about well-being and how it is becoming a priority aspect in today's setup, especially of a flexi and hybrid nature of work. If you look at the generation, the demographics have changed. The workforce has a mix of Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Zs. With someone who is under 30 will have a completely different needs than someone who has kids in their teens or aging parents. And hence well-being becomes a very integral part of it. And a holistic well-being program, I think, has to capture 4 quadrants of well-being. Physical and emotional, of course, is very common and every company talks about it. But besides that, it has to talk about financial well-being and social well-being. And social is very important. When we work in a hybrid setup, work from home, who do we talk to on a daily basis besides the laptop screens? And hence, there are chances of lack of discipline, burnout, stress. Hence, social well-being is a very important aspect. I can talk about one example in Zimmer Biomet. We have a program called ZB Well, which focuses on holistic well-being approach, providing mental well-being support. And we do something called a 100-day wellness challenge. Now, 100-day wellness challenge is a different game altogether. It's not like a step count or a stepathon challenge. Each day has a unique challenge, attached to these 4 quadrants of well-being. And team members earn points by completing a challenge, and not just by completing a challenge, they tag another team member, another employee on our internal Viva community, and if that person also completes the challenge, they earn more points. Idea was to make it, increase the adoption of such initiatives. Why should organizations work on these initiatives? Not just to have fun, but ultimately to inculcate right healthy habits, right? We all know going to gym is important, walking every day is important, staying fit is important, but how many of us actually do it? Smoking is injurious to health, but actually it is difficult to quit smoking. And that's the reason as an organization, I think we focus towards inculcating these healthy habits over a period of time. And these gamified challenges like a 100-day contest help us making it more sustainable, making it gamified, making it fun and engaging. Besides that, I would say we as an organization needs to provide the required support to team members and create a culture of belongingness. Again, very important, especially in a hybrid setup, especially with the Gen Zs and new team members joining in. They feel less connected. And hence, there's an immense focus on creating the sense of belongingness towards it and creating the right policies, practices, creating a culture where employees feel cared for and supported is important. And the tone gets set at the top by the leaders. If leaders talk about well-being but end up sending a late Saturday evening email with an urgent deliverable followed by a WhatsApp message to respond immediately, we can't talk about well-being. There are signs of team members will ultimately get into stress, burnout. Those situations will happen. And hence, culture is very important, in creating that well-being setup. Along with that, I would say lastly, managers needs to be equipped with the right tools and information to look at early signs.
Prioritizing these days to make workspaces better?
You see, you'll see a lot of commonalities between, let's say, what Utsav just mentioned and what all of us are talking about, but it goes back to, what our objectives are, right? And at this point in time, common objectives or common themes that are really emerging, apart from, I think we discussed employee health and well-being, we discussed employee experience, is also digitization and technology, is also a lot of focus around sustainability, is also a lot of focus around, are we really working out of a A-class building or A-plus grade infrastructure, right? See what's happening in a city like Hyderabad, for example, and we were discussing it, absolutely brilliant A-class infrastructure. You have new buildings opening up on Udyog Vihar side of Gurgaon, which essentially means that you are now moving from the earlier A-class structures which have now downgraded because of aging of the building, but getting in new structures to replace them. And that's what employees are also demanding. That's what pushes employees back to the office. That's what helps getting the whole, the productivity cycle up. It plays a very important part in what Utsav just mentioned about, employee well-being, etc. And the very fact that a lot of us or a lot of employers are now realizing the importance of collaboration. And again, I'm just going back to the point, pre-COVID everything existed, it's just that we didn't look at it. Priorities were different. Post-COVID, priorities are very, very different. We possibly may be doing the same thing in a very different way, in a very, in a better way, to kind of make sure that these things go on track. The most important thing I think we also need to look at is how is this space innovating? Is it only about office spaces, or is it what you give in those office spaces, or how do you position it with your employees? Because eventually for any organization at the end of the day, for any organization at the end of the day, it's all about talent, correct? How do you retain that talent that you've worked very hard to recruit, to train, and then to deliver? So it really goes back to how do you want to basically treat your talent, to what your objectives are, and how do you marry both of them. And the third, in my view, the most important thing is it has to be collaborative even within the leadership, right? So HR needs to talk to real estate needs to talk to business. The CXOs and CFOs need to sit down on the same table and decide what the next steps are, because outside of payroll, real estate is the second biggest expense that possibly any firm would have. So yeah, I think it needs that attention which it's getting now. So I can safely say from my perspective, again, I think it's a maturing trend. How long will it take? I don't know. But is it moving fast? The answer is yes. Yes.
No, thank you. So on that note, Raman, would you like to add few trends that are evolving with this current workplace spaces? If there are any couple of trends that you want to highlight on these lines?
See, purely from I'd like to look at it from a real estate perspective. I did speak about innovation, right? And I think it's our duty to get to everyone. What are those innovations happening in the market? Can I today optimize with impact? Pre-COVID, the discussion was cost. Post-COVID, the discussion is now evolving to optimizing it. And it's not necessary cost, but what is the value that you get if you were to, let's say, spend an X amount of money? The second clear trend that's really emerging outside of this is what we term it as responsible procurement, right? Or let's say sustainable procurement, or let's say diverse procurement, because I think these are actions that really impact not only us, but the people who work for us, but also the surroundings. Because it's very easy, right? You open up a new space, it also gives you, extra employment to a lot of people in and around. You will have taxiwalas, you will have, your small shops opening up, you will have those thelas opening up selling F&B. So how does that even impact them? How are you procuring your items, for example? Is it necessary to look at what MSMEs are doing, for example, and get that stuff? So that's one very big thing that's coming up. All of it under the umbrella of ESG or sustainability from that perspective. The fourth trend is around technology. And in my view, there's a bunch of technology available today, right? From a real estate perspective, it could be occupancy planning, it could be seat planning, it could be cafeteria seating, it could be your collaborative spaces in terms of what do you do with a WebEx or a Team or a Zoom, or how do you kind of get people connected, etc. But it's also very important for us to realize what is the technology that is going to help us and possibly not help somebody else, or what is somebody else doing that we may cut, paste, and customize it, to our workplace, right? So I think, and the last piece which is really coming out is clients have also now started looking at what are the different options and different models available. I think people have now started realizing from an outsourcing perspective, because I look after the facility management business, which is essentially an outsourcing business, is the fact that can we now move away from our non-core activities and give it to somebody whose main job is to outsource. And similarly, organizations are saying, we will stick to what our core is, right? So whether it's Utsav's biotechnology, they're sticking to their core on developing solutions that impact lives, but we handle the stuff for them, right? Something like that. So that's a new trend that's emerging up, and new sectors are opening up. So you've got to look at it, from an infra point of view. What are those new sectors coming up, and therefore how do you evolve in those sectors, which then goes back to the point in how are we maturing as an industry.
I agree. Mr. Utsav, what are your thoughts on this, since you come from a HR background and you handle a very key industry, which is the medical industry, and your company is on the robotic manufacturing field?
Well, I would say, I think first is, of course, as I said, the flexi and hybrid, that's the biggest trend which is happening. And if we talk about, I mean, we are always on the move, always on the go. There is a blurring line between, a personal life and a work life, professional life. In fact, for most of us, it is intertwined, right? And hence, this flexi setup is the biggest trend. There are companies which still want people to come to office every day. They do not offer flexi, but with the new Gen Zs coming into workflows, I think this is going to be the reality for practically everyone. To stay competitive, to stay relevant, I think companies have to adapt to the change. Secondly, I would say again prioritizing the well-being aspect of it, because one is, of course, burnout, but more than that, I think collaboration somewhere takes a hit. Teams start working in their own silos, and hence, because of that, we do not, and employees also realize that I am still productive while working from home. Why do I need to come to office? So organizations have to work differently to attract people coming back to office, bringing them back to office. And going by what Raman just mentioned, we are working on redesigning our office space. When COVID happened in 2020, we gave up our office space, in Cyber City, and it was a huge reduction in my real estate and office administration cost. But now, when we look at team collaboration, bonding, belongingness, somewhere I think we need a better infrastructure, maybe a higher upgraded, attractive workplace where employees feel like going to office, every day. Though we will continue with the flexible approach, but certain days are required for, that team connection, collaboration, ideation, and hence that requirement is completely changing for an office space perspective. And lastly, since we're talking about future, of course, how can we not talk about AI and automation? So I think that is evolving. It's not even future, it's a present reality now. And I think the trend is shifting towards offering hyper-personalized experience, employee experience to team members through AI-based, recommendation, tailoring, learning journeys, and curated career path for employees. And of course, AI will keep evolving and simplifying our decision making, ease of decision making, and automating some of the repeated work. But ultimately, it's a hyper employee centric and personalized approach that we see emerging.
Thank you so much. And since you've just touched about artificial intelligence, I think this as a word often resonates amongst us. And I would like to know your thoughts on this, Raman. What do you think about artificial intelligence in workplace transformation?
I think you're right, Parul. A lot of people are speaking about AI. It is impacting us in more ways than one. And I think the key to AI essentially is what goes in comes out, right? So, I mean, if you look at it purely from a real estate perspective, the way we are looking at AI is, helping clients with lease administration, because that's a lot of paperwork, correct? And in our industry, there is a bunch of paperwork required given government norms and compliances, etc. How can AI play a role in that? Secondly, how are we evolving on certain options like help desks or the earlier mails or calling somebody saying, listen, can you help? Can AI take over that function? Third and most important, and I'll give you our own example, we tied up with ChatGPT and launched what is called as JLL-GPT, which gives a lot of answers to the questions we potentially don't know, right? It is, again, I think early stages from a AI adoption is fairly early in terms of stage from a real estate perspective. That trend will catch up. And how it evolves is going to be very interesting.
Thank you so much, and I think it's quite an interactive session, and we can go on and on about it. One question, which comes out of curiosity, Utsav, since you're in the HR, do you always face challenges when you come and people ask you when you're hiring people that whether your workplace is hybrid or not? I'm sure.
No, that certainly, yes, is a big question which comes through every candidate practically. And as I said, I think in my previous responses, that is certainly helping us as an organization to attract right talent. What we have done is, we have actually categorized all roles into three categories, A, B, and C, where A stands for, fully on-site role. They have to go to office. B is partially remote, occasionally required to go to office as and when required. And C is fully remote. That means that role can be done from anywhere in the world. And we don't in fact call it a work from home policy, we call it virtual workplace policy, which means as long as you have a strong internet connectivity, you have no disturbance, your PIN code is serviceable, you can work from anywhere. And that is actually helping me attract the right talent. A lot of team members who were earlier working out of Gurgaon, because we are based out of Gurgaon, have moved to their hometowns working from those locations. And that has significantly improved my employee retention, especially in enabling functions, support functions. Certain roles, yes, like manufacturing, logistics and distribution, quality assurance sometimes have to be in the office. But otherwise, I think in general, majority of the role lies towards hybrid site, category B and C. And yes, it's a prevalent question, but I think it is helping us becoming an employer of choice, because we are one of the only medtech companies which are aggressively still do not have any plans to resume back, office.
Thank you so much. So on that note, Utsav and Raman, thank you so much once again for taking time and sharing your experience and insights with us today. Today's discussion made one thing very, very clear, that workplace is more than just brick and mortar. It is an experience. As we navigate this exciting evolution, one thing is certain: adaptability, innovation, and people's first strategies will shape the future of work. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being such a great audience, and we look forward to sign it out.
Parul, you moderated very well, but I have a question for all of you.
Absolutely.
Since you guys are from the industry only, what's your personal favorite? Work from home, hybrid, work from anywhere, remote, or what? What's your personal favorite and why?
You want to go first? My personal favorite is work from office. Work from the office. And I think...
And the reasoning is?
Everybody has their own reasons, but I like to be in the thick of things. The industry I belong to, like I said, is outsourcing. And if 95% of my teams are at client offices, I don't think it's right for us to be working from home, right?
And find ground report work from home.
Exactly. So I think we need to be on the ground, and I think the best way into that is either be in your office or in the client office, right? So that's my personal favorite, is that, yes.
What's yours?
Well, it's a tricky for HR to answer, because whatever, becomes a narrative sometimes, but I personally...
But you are also an employee.
Correct, precisely. So personally, I would prefer to work from home. I'm working from home practically for the last 5 years. Though I personally prefer to go to office once a week. There's no mandate from an organization perspective. And the reason being, I get to spend a lot of time with my kids. In fact, more than my wife. She has to travel. Her company has not mandated it, but I am working from home. And my kids are at a certain age where I am probably learning more from them than they are learning from me. They are Gen Alpha, and they'll be entering the workforce in a couple of years. So I think I enjoy working from home.
Parul, your favorite is?
So my personal favorite is work from office, because what I personally feel is human touch is very important. And I think when we go collaborate, meet diverse group of people, there is, a lot to learn. Like when I come back from office every time, whether there's my team or my, people, my peers, I'm learning every day. So I think that really enhance the overall productivity of employees. And when we meet up, we grow together. It's personally, I feel.
So even in this panel, 66% vote goes to work from office, right?
I'm glad. That's why we are there as office-based solutions.
It helps us make our money, I guess, yeah.
Thank you to all the panelists.
Thank
Wonderful
you.
session. Thanks a lot. Thanks to the audience as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you once again. And Prashant, I ask that you please present each of our panelists with the token of our appreciation, a small memento as our symbol of gratitude, a very relatable discussion there, which we all have diverse opinions on, but the tangible takeaways is essentially kind of the common denominator here. All right. Let's